He didn't know Mitsuha was coming, so he couldn't be blamed for running into her. This was both his workplace and his home, so of course he was free to roam the corridors. That didn't mean Mitsuha had to be friendly to him, however. He was still Viscount Ift, the man who made her extremely uncomfortable by verbally assaulting her. There was also a good chance the king would order him to spy on her if she started associating with him. Discretion is the better part of valor, as they say. I'm gonna give him the cold shoulder. Is something wrong? Said Mitsuha. Hurry up and lead me to the gates. The guard was stupefied by her order. He only stopped because he couldn't ignore the prince's attempt to speak to her, but he hastily led the way at her urging. After what just happened at the Great Hall, he realized that if she was willing to pick a fight with the king, she would have no qualms doing the same with the prince. He decided that ignoring the prince was better than starting another dangerous argument. That was the right choice, Mr. Guard. You've got the wild instincts to survive the treacherous beast's lair, aka the royal palace. The prince was yowling something in the background, but Mitsuha ignored him. He'd only been introduced to her as Viscount Ift. She had no reason to treat him any differently than she always had. She just happened to pass the Viscount in the hall and gave him the cold shoulder because she was still upset that he insulted her in front of all the other nobles. No one could blame her for that. Time to leave the royal palace. What? You saw Viscountess Yomano? The king exclaimed. Yes, I just passed her in the hallway, answered the prince. Why didn't you tell me you had summoned her? The king slumped his shoulders in disbelief. After all I'd done today, managing to undo the damage with Viscountess Yomano and even recovering from the mistake I made today and starting anew. Despite all that, I'm sure she's figured it out. There's no way she's that stupid. Ugh, what can I do now? The king had a rocky road ahead of him. Chapter 60. An Uncharted Island. A man had just arrived in a county in the countryside. He was ordered by his lord to investigate the small territory owned by a viscountess. It was in the middle of nowhere, at the border of the Zeglius kingdom, which was itself at the edge of the continent. Not long ago, the land was ruled by an insignificant baron and produced only minimal yield. The man was one of his master's most trusted and skilled vassals. Why, then, was he sent to a place like this? Because it was the territory of Viscountess Yomano, otherwise known as the Lightning Archpriestess. Viscountess Yomano, the girl who arrived in Zeglius out of nowhere and saved a village girl by single-handedly wiping out a pack of wolves, and soon after, secured the future of a young lady from a rising noble family by planning her debutante ball and turning it into a rousing success. That was only the beginning. After that, she saved the life of the kingdom's third royal princess, helped rejuvenate a diner, and finally revealed herself as the Lightning Archpriestess when she saved the kingdom from a hopeless crisis. The girl became a hero to the land. As a citizen of Zeglius, the man was grateful to her. But his feelings were irrelevant. His lord had given him a job to do. He wasn't planning to harm her, though he was only there to gather information. It was a trivial offense that the goddess would be sure to overlook. He had nothing to fear as long as everything went according to plan. At least, that should have been the case. The man couldn't have known how horribly wrong his mission was going to go. He observed the vertical salt farm, the treadmill water wheel, and their supports from a distance without incident. He sensed the villagers' watchful eyes on him, but that was to be expected. He was sure to attract some attention as an outsider scrutinizing their facilities. Nothing happened when he went to observe the fishing village or the storehouse by the coast either. Later that night, however, he turned his sights on the Lightning Archpriestess's residence. It was rumored to stay illuminated even after dark, and the glow didn't look like it was coming from a candle or a lamp. He also heard the Archpriestess stored her many divine treasures, including lightning wands and the goddess's voice at her residence. He crept into the yard with the intention of infiltrating the home when... click. Just as he heard a contraption go off, a burst of light suddenly flashed at him. His eyes used to the darkness were blinded by the brightness, and his body froze for a moment. That was a failure unbecoming of a professional like him. The glare was followed by a deafening sound. It wasn't a gong or a drum, but some sort of drilling noise he'd never heard before. The incessant ringing hindered his ability to think. A mole, huh? Who sent you? He heard a girl's voice mutter, I guess it doesn't matter. Before he could process what the voice meant, he found himself standing alone on a beach. Yamano County is on the coast, the man thought. But I was in the backyard of the Viscountess's residence. That's hundreds of yards from the ocean. It was completely dark outside. The starlight would have illuminated the houses in the distance, but the village was nowhere to be seen, let alone the Yamano County residence. He didn't remember the beach next to the fishing village being this scenic, either. Don't panic yet. I need to keep a cool head. Wandering around aimlessly in the dark in an unfamiliar place would be suicide. The best course of action would be to stay calm and wait until morning to assess his situation. That was how professionals operated. I should find a safe place to rest. The next morning, the man climbed down from the large tree where he'd spent the night and returned to the sandy beach. He took a good look around. Is this an island? The coastline curved out gently on both sides, which meant he was either on a peninsula or an island. The lack of any sign of human habitation made the latter more likely. How? He stuttered, but he knew there was only one explanation. Traversal. The lightning archpriestess's miraculous ability that let her travel to distant locations in an instant. There was also that voice of a young woman he heard in the backyard last night. There were other girls living in the archpriestess's residence, including a couple of maids and an apprentice chef. But that girl didn't sound scared or panicked about finding a suspicious trespasser in the middle of the night. If anything, she sounded annoyed. It certainly wasn't the way a servant would have reacted. That meant it was. The lightning archpriestess. The man had already figured this out, of course. He just wanted to study the terrain and assess his situation before confirming his deduction. His long, sleepless night up in a tree gave him enough time, more than enough time, really to think. Someone was calling from behind. He whirled around and instinctively reached his right hand into his pocket but stopped himself. He studied the man ahead of him. If the stranger intended harm, he would have snuck up on him instead of calling out from a distance. He relaxed and allowed the man to approach, while preparing to draw his knife at any moment. The stranger smiled wryly as he approached. I get why you'd be on edge, but there's no need to worry. If I wanted to hurt you, I would have shot you with an arrow already or have you surrounded by a fully armed gang. That's a good point, the man thought. He would have captured or killed me already if he had anything to do with bringing me to this island. I'll let him take the lead for now. The stranger continued, I'm sure you already have an inkling, but this was the archpriestess's doing. She immediately snuffs out anyone who tries to harm her citizens, plucks them like weeds. Anyone who crosses a line trying to gather intelligence, whether they mean any harm or not, she sends here. Essentially, this island is a dumping ground for enemies who aren't worth killing. The dumping ground? The man surmised this was an island. But a dumping ground? Did the archpriestess really just take offenders who didn't deserve to be killed and leave them here? What about interrogating them for the identity of their employer or their objective? He asked these questions to the second man. She doesn't seem to care about any of that. If an invader doesn't mean harm, she dumps them here. If they do, she makes them confess the identity of their employer and, well, plug. You're kidding. The first man said. Not even worth the effort, her actions seem to imply. How long does she leave us here before she releases us? Surely the kind archpriestess wouldn't neglect us for too long. No idea. What? The second man continued, we've all been here since the day we ended up here. No one has ever left the island. The first guy who was dumped here is still here. What? Does the lightning archpriestess come here to interrogate us, at least? No. Once she leaves us here, she's done. We're all on our own, which means we have to fish, hunt, and gather plants and fruit to survive. No. I have a wife and kids, and my employer isn't the Archpriestess's enemy. He just wanted me to find some hints to help him develop his own territory. I just need to tell her who my employer is. The first man cried desperately. Not her enemy, huh? The second man said with a bitter, almost longing smile. Let me tell you something. I was acting on the orders of Count Bozes. The Archpriestess considers him her most trusted ally in the country. The Bozeses have a family-friend relationship with her. And yet, she's never once given me a chance to tell her that. You can't be serious. Come with me. I'll introduce you to everyone. We worked together to build a hut and a farm over there. Are you good at fishing? How about hunting or construction work? Any special survival skills? The second man asked. The first man didn't answer. Oh, there's one more thing I should tell you. Our former nationalities, positions, and names don't matter here. We're all equal prisoners. Here, we discard our old names and call each other by numbers. That puts unknown rookies and famous elite spies on the same level. Well, I guess there's no such thing as a famous elite spy. Any spy who allows themselves to become famous is third-rate at best, ha ha ha. Anyway, your new name is number 28. I was the 6th person dumped here, so I'm number 6. We're both prisoners on an island that I doubt is on any of our country's maps. The man knew one thing for sure, his long days of island life was just beginning. Chapter 61. Mitsuha shares the 3rd floor. And so, I demand you open up the 3rd floor. What do you mean, and so? Mitsuha had just delivered Colette back to the county residence from Vanel and returned to her general store in the capital. Sabine had been waiting for her outside. You took Colette somewhere again without me, didn't you? I demand that you make up for it. Oh, she's upset because she thinks Colette is getting preferential treatment, Mitsuha thought. Now she wants something to level the playing field. I don't think she's gonna back down here. What to do? I've already seen your Japanese house, so I don't see the problem with going up to the store's 3rd floor. She had a point there. There wasn't anything on the 3rd floor that surpassed what Mitsuha had in her Japanese house. Her unused weapons were stored in a room she was renting at the Wolf Fang base. All that was up there was a TV, a Blu-ray player, an air conditioner, a refrigerator, some game consoles, and other things Sabine was already familiar with. There was a laptop, but it wasn't like there was any internet to connect it to in this world. Not even the clever Sabine would be able to figure out how to use it on her own. Besides, Sabine would stay away from anything she was firmly warned not to touch. Mitsuha could trust her. If you give me permission to enter freely, I'll be able to keep the store open for you. Of course, I'll leave the shop operations to my maids. That'll free me up to do other things. You're too busy to give the place proper attention, right? This will make life much easier for you, Sabine bartered. Crook. That's pretty tempting. She'll have her hidden guards with her, so I won't have to worry about her safety. There won't be any issues as long as I make the 2nd and 3rd floors off limits to all but Sabine. That does sound tempting. On second thought. Still sounds tempting. Mitsuha thought long and hard about Sabine's proposal. Ooh. You're such an animal, Sabine. The lightning archpriestess gives into temptation ! Wait, that sounds like an 18+ manga. And so, Mitsuha yielded to the whispers of the devil. And that's how you change the settings on the security system, explained Mitsuha. I dismantled the automatic crossbow shooter and other lethal weapons, but the emergency alarm can still go off. If that happens, a siren will blare inside my county residence and even through the county's loudspeaker. It's really annoying, so please don't do anything stupid. Worst case, I'll have to revoke your access pass. Oh, okay. I won't. Sabine answered firmly. She realized Mitsuha was serious. Also, you're the only person allowed on the 3rd floor. Your maids and guards must remain on the 1st floor unless there's an emergency fire, bandits, or your life is in danger. You're not allowed to enter the second floor other than to use the staircase to reach the third. The rest of the floor is off limits. I'm telling you this for your own safety. I only use it for storage, but I set burglar traps all over the place. Got it? Yes. And that was how Mitsuha hired a manager and the manager's personal staff for her Yamano capital residence, also known as Mitsuha's general store. Oh. I have one request, Mitsuha, the newly appointed manager exclaimed. What's that? I suppose I could grant a request or two. She would be working for free. Would it be okay if I take Luan and Chi up to the third floor too? Huh? Luan's her adorable little brother, and I think Chi is the nickname for her favorite older sister, the second princess. Watching DVDs and Blu-rays alone on the third floor might get lonely, actually. Luan and the second princess, whatever her real name is, won't be able to understand the movies and shows they watch, but they could have fun if Sabine translated for them. I doubt Sabine will bring them every time. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to focus when she's watching something new. You're not going to bring the crown prince or the first princess, right? Mitsuha asked. No, I won't. That was a fast answer. Man, she's cold. Well, she probably said that knowing I wouldn't give permission for them to enter. Those two would try to use what they find on the third floor to benefit the kingdom, which is their duty as lords. They're just doing what's right for them. Sabine knows I wouldn't respond well to any demands to share my technology, so she didn't even try to include them. It had nothing to do with how she feels about them. I think... Oh, I just can't say no to you, Sabine. Approved. And so began Lucifer's, Sabine's, takeover of Mitsuha's general store. Up here, Mitsuha jumped this time with a catchphrase to the second floor of her general store. It's from a manga that was published on the short-lived magazine Weekly Shonen Takarajo. I wonder if anyone remembers. She jumped to the second floor to avoid startling Sabine in case she was on the third. A heart attack was unlikely, but the girl just might spew hot tea everywhere or spill it all over her clothes. To save the princess from burning herself or ruining her very expensive dresses, Mitsuha decided to jump to a corner on the second floor every time. It was packed with booby traps, but she'd set them herself and knew how to avoid them. The place was off limits for Sabine, though. Mitsuha tiptoed through the piano wires and the motion sensor-activated projector, the kind that projected a ghost and made spooky noises, and headed for the stairs. When she opened the door to the third floor living room. Oh, hello. Thank you for letting us visit, the second princess smiled and bowed her head. Her eyes were bloodshot. In the room, Sabine, Luan, and Chi the second princess were eating tangerines and playing an RPG with their legs under the kotatsu. Scattered all around them were empty snack wrappers, soda cans, and bottles. Mitsuha choked. You? Sabine and her siblings tilted their heads. You've got to be kidding me. How long have you all been here? She screamed. She proceeded to set a strict schedule to limit their gaming and DVD screen time. Sabine vehemently protested, to no avail. Bonus chapter.